All right, everybody, Reggie, the Front Row Report. I am joined today by the man, Devin Townsend. I'm very excited. Ziltoid 2, Z2, is finally out. Man, how does it feel to finally have that album out into the public and be done with the recording and all that good stuff?
It's very relieving, I think, this one. I think Ziltoid, this record represents, more than anything else, a sense of closure for me. I've been really working hard over the past 7 or 8 years on this particular style of music, and it's been 7 years since the first Ziltoid, and this allows me to sort of conclude this period, maybe musically, and look forward to the future to see what happens next.
Awesome. I heard at one point you didn't really have much interest in doing a sequel to Ziltoid. What changed, and what made you want to do a sequel?
Well, the pledge drive that I did a crowdfunding campaign for my independent release that came out earlier this year called Casualty of Cool, and I hadn't expected it to go as well as it did. And when it went above and beyond, it sort of became clear to me that now is the time, if ever, that I would have the capital to make this really extravagant thing that I've always wanted to make. And Ziltoid is not just the record and the stupid story and all this, but it's visual components as well, these puppets and these sort of online things and orchestras and choirs. And it's really an expensive project and admittedly a very what's the word I'm looking for? When it's selfish, this project. It's me making a bunch of crazy music for the sake of myself. But this time I didn't necessarily have to spend the label's money. You know, it was something I could do on my own. And although I was tired and all this sort of stuff, all the planets and stars seemed to align to the point where it seemed like it was an appropriate thing to do. I hadn't expected it either. Sure.
Right, you mentioned the crowdsourcing and crowdfunding for Casualties of Cool, and that went very well. How did the crowdfunding really for that? You mentioned that really influenced being able to do this record. Did it have to do a lot with being able to make it a two album project? Because this one's a double disc, whereas the first Ziltoid was just one album.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say that there's some master plan behind it being a double album, and the truth is actually it started in a relatively more embarrassing way. In that, I told the label management and band that I said, they're like, okay, well, good. Now you've done Epicloud. We've done a lot of touring. What are we going to give people next? And I was like, this super odd record about farting aliens, and it's going to cost $100,000, And everybody was like, okay, do you have anything else? So it became at first this compromise because there's a lot of people in my world, not only management, label, but band and friends that are just like, we know you like doing the Ziltoid thing because it's creatively pretty liberated, but it's not as engaging to some people as the other stuff you do, where it's more melodic and more straight ahead and this and that. So I was like, all right, fine. If I do that music as well, of which I've got a lot written, can I do my Ziltoid thing? And so it started as a compromise, to be fair. But then once I started working on it, I realized that it wasn't as easy as that. That I was having a real hard time just pretending that I was into writing that stuff, and I wasn't. So I had to dig pretty deep with the Sky Blue thing, and it came up not only with music that was unexpected for me, but also it became a record that I'm actually very proud of. Awesome. So the double record started in a less than noble way.
Awesome. I mean, it benefits the fans too, because they don't get just one record; they get two records in one. It's like you buy one, you get two, and so everybody benefits from it as well.
That's what I hope. I mean, I think it confuses people too, right? Because I think that people tend to view the project as somehow being two halves, which I'm sure that's how it's presented. It is how it's presented. But because it is two very distinct things, I think we run the risk of confusing people, and do. But you know what, man? It's like, since when have I not confused the shit out of people, right? So there it is.
Awesome, man. I mean, Ziltoid is, over the years, almost, immediately took on really a life of its own. Has developed a really huge following. I mean, there's, ZTV, Ziltoid Radio. Ziltoid has its own website and social media. Was that something that you set out to do originally in the thought process, or was that something that kind of, after you saw the response, it was like, let's do this too?
Well, I think it's fair to point out that the response, a lot of it is imaginary. Like all those things that you just brought up, other than the website, were all things that I've done. It's not like these Ziltoid sidelines were a result of massive popularity, rather than I kind of took the initiative to do them because I wanted to. And I think it's also fair to remember that when the first record came out, a lot of people tend to sort of think that when the first Ziltoid came out, people unanimously loved it, and it didn't. People really didn't like Ziltoid when it came out. It was perceived as this odd, average kind of solo thing, and so now that the new Ziltoid's out, it's just funny to me that people are like, "Oh, we wish it was more like the first one." So either the quality of what I've done has gone down significantly, which could be the case, or people just rely on expectations of things rather than what it is on its own merits. But who am I to say at this point, I think.
Is that frustrating when, you release a record and the response isn't great, and then you release a sequel and then they're like, why can't it be like the first one? You're like, you guys didn't like the first one that much, and now you want it to be like that.
That's it. I mean, it's like, same thing like when Strapping was happening. Last Strapping tour that we did, there was nobody there. It was a total bust in the States. We did this really bad tour. And then now it's like people are like, oh yeah, it was my favorite band. I was like, well, why didn't you go see it? Right. You know what I mean? Like, so in a sense, I'm like, I say to people who are really interested in Devin Townsend project or Ziltoid, I'm like, well, same thing applies to this. And the only thing I would say is, if you like what I'm doing now, pay attention to it now, because sooner or later this isn't going to happen either. I change, and if there's anything that the past has taught me about my own connection to music, is all this stuff is just temporary, Ziltoid, DTP, and it's going to change.
Right. Because I started listening after the first Ziltoid recently, and so I had to go back and listen to all of the older stuff as well. And so I'm discovering it all at a later date after the fact, and so
good luck, man. That's a lot of work, buddy. Thank you. I applaud the effort.
There's a lot of material to go through.
Yeah, some of it's crap, but I mean, even the stuff that's not as good. And this is what I was explaining to somebody the other day, because they're saying, some people perceive some of my stuff to be cheesy, and how do I feel about that? And I'm like, well, you know what? If I feel like that sound is what the current frame of mind I find myself in, life-wise or relationship-wise or career-wise, if that's what adheres itself to the experience, then that's what I'm going to write. Mm-hmm. It's not a conscious thing for me where I'm trying to make sure that everything I do is super cool or hip or whatever. I just write. I write a ton of music, and as long as it's accurate to the vision that I have, and I think that's one thing I got going for me is a strong vision. As long as it's accurate to that vision, I'm gonna do it. So, you'll go through the back catalog and you'll hear things of varying, maybe not quality, because I like to think that it's consistent, but various styles and various states of whether or not it's hip or cheesy. But it's fair just to know that that's what I was compelled to do. And so everything that I've done to date has been rooted in honesty, which I'm proud of.
Well, I mean, that makes for, a better product in the end, I think, as long as the music's honest. I mean, anybody who doesn't like it, fuck you, It's
in a sense, exactly. I mean, and what I find now, too, is because there's so much home recording, everybody's a producer, everybody's a mixer, so when you put out a record, everybody's like telling you what you should have done. You should have tracked this differently. You should have recorded this differently. You should have mixed it differently. This is too loud. This is too quiet. You should have done less of this. less Anika, more you, less you, more Anika, less all this stuff, right? Man, if I listened to what people said to me, I would never do anything.
You never get a record done.
You never get a record done. So really, I think the more that I do this, the more I realize that a good majority of my job is just getting through it and finding ways to continuously do my thing through the craft, of which there's different types of the further I go, right? Different flavors of craft, right?
Now, working with Anika, man, that's got to be a lot of fun and just open a lot of creative pathways. Working with Anika on a lot of stuff, her voice is so natural and so strong, and really complements your style really well. Bringing her on for Z2, did that have anything to do with working with her on the Retinal Circus?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I don't like singing that much. I think that's my biggest hang-up. And plus, 25 records in, man. I mean, I've heard myself for so many years that part of me is just sick of it. Like people are saying, well, because I had sung Fallout on the new record and then I replaced it with one from Anika. I just didn't want to hear myself. That's what it was. And so, of course, you get people that are saying, well, you made the wrong decision. It should have been you. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I didn't make the wrong decision. I made the right decision for me. It's my trip. And I think it's healthy to say to people, "Hey guys, I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of my voice. I gotta. In order to continue doing this job efficiently and effectively for the people who enjoy it, you gotta stand back from yourself and the bullshit that comes along with this career, because it's so easy to get caught in the persona and people telling you that you're an asshole, and people telling you on the other side that you're the best, and all this stuff, and it's all just fills your head with noise. And the way for me to continuously make music that I think is going to resonate with people and myself is to find efficient ways to just block that shit out. And Anika she's a good friend. She's an amazing vocalist. I tend to write vocal parts mine, even in a range that's typically really high, and it works really well with female voices. I'm in love with the sound of beauty, always have been, and I don't know if it's just because I'm a man or just the obvious fact that the women that I've chosen to work with have beautiful voices, but I love the sound of female voices. But at the same time, I mean, it's like, I think it also represents a lot of stuff for me as well, because it's not like you're in relationships with these people. They're coworkers, they're friends, you spend a lot of time thinking about relationships between men and women, and I honestly think you can be friends with members of the opposite sex without it being some weirdo,
definitely
thing, right? So I think that singing with women is really a healthy thing for me. I really enjoy the way it sounds, and Anika offers me a certain type of power with a female voice that I don't know, I just really enjoy. Some people don't like the fact that we do it, but hey, you know what? Again, my trip.
I love female vocalists in metal, because metal can be so raw and powerful, and I think if a female voice complements it so well, and if done right, can be one of the most beautiful pieces of art ever.
Now I'm working with some men vocalists that do death metal vocals, because I can't do that either. I'm in the middle. You know what I mean? I can do the stuff in the middle, but I can't do the super low and the super high. So it's like,
you got to bring somebody in to do it. You
got to bring someone in to do it, right? I'm not going to get a female in to do the death metal vocals, I don't think, and I'm not going to get a death metal vocalist, to do. I mean, you're the new arch enemy, and she does a good job too. There's lots of women that do good death metal vocals, but the ones I'm looking for are in the basement, right?
So Casualty so cool. I got to ask you about that project. It was so different from other stuff you've done. Did that come about because really, after doing metal for so long, you really just wanted to change it up and do something completely different? Or how did that come about?
Oh, I didn't think about it. I think that's how it came about. I bought a Telecaster, and that's what the guitar gave me.
Nice.
Nice. I don't don't premeditate much, specifically when it comes to music. I just, there's elements of Sky Blue that I had to premeditate, which was difficult, but it worked. And I think that with Casualties, it didn't start as a project. It just started as me pissing around at night on a Telecaster, and then it's turned into a record. And I think the reason why it really works for me is because that's also a type of music that I really like. As much as I like complicated sort of Tetris melodies that you have to sort of ram together, like Ziltoid or Deconstruction or Strapping or things like that, I really enjoy folk stuff and, Negative Space and Johnny Cash type things. It's just another part of my trip, I guess.
Nice. And one of those things where you just sit down and you start messing around. Hey, this sounds good. Let's do something with this.
That's all it was. All it was.
Awesome. So finally, you're about to go back out onto the road. You're doing the U.S. tour starting next month, and you're going over to Europe again next year in the spring. After the 2 tours, what does the future hold for you? I know you talked about maybe taking some time off at some point. Is that still a plan, or just going to keep pushing forward?
Well, I can't really afford to take a year off. There's something to be... There's something I hadn't considered when I was beaking off about it. But, I think what I need to do, speaking out loud here, is I need to use the opportunity that Z2 has presented and the fatigue that it brought on to re-examine my my workaholic tendencies and perhaps just refine it and say no to a few more things.
Maybe
be a little less. Yeah. It's. I really love my job. I really enjoy doing it, but I think that there comes a time where if it no longer is you there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, that's yes. Sorry, I'm on a train here as well, so if it cuts out, okay.
You're good.
Yeah, it's like if I forget what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
Oh, you were talking about if maybe tweaking what you do, the workaholic lifestyle, and taking.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's my next step, and plus I'm going to try and not make great claims to what the future holds in interviews, which I usually do, and then end up finding myself committed to it. So, it's an interesting time, man. Interesting time.
It is. Yeah. It's gonna be fun to see what happens, and all 3, new records, the Devil album and Casualties of Cool, all 3 very, very solid records. Casualties of Cool was so different, I loved it. And then Z2, obviously, outstanding. And so,
thanks.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be fun to see what the future holds, and hopefully we can see it somewhere down the line. So.
Yeah, I think the whole thing for me is I'm not trying to ram this shit down anybody's throats as much as labels and everybody tries to sell it to people. You have to. It costs a fortune to make this stuff, but it's hard for me to try and sell myself in ways that aren't accurate. And really, I'm just kind of like poking around in the dark and seeing what I find. And sometimes it's farting aliens, and sometimes it's odd sort of reverby country music, and who knows? It's about the exploring, and I really enjoy the process. So what is held next, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm interested to find out.